Before you watch this video, make sure if you have not already, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and tell me in the comments, are you planning or have you already gone to an XFL game? What were your experiences? What did you think of it? I would love to hear what you fellow XFL fans are thinking, so make sure to give me that comment in the comment sections below. And without further ado, enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to Red Kingdom Sports, your source for everything related to the NFL, XFL, and the great game of football. Now, congratulations to everybody for surviving yet another week of XFL football, and for my boys, the DC Defenders and the reigning MVP, Cardale Jones, I mean literally survive after that brutal thrashing that the LA Wildcats did to my home team this Sunday. But I will get to that game as well as all the other games this weekend in a later video. The purpose of this hitting something that I think a lot of you will be interested in, and that is, what is it like actually at an XFL game? What's the atmosphere? What are you going to be looking forward to if you do have a game plan to go see in these next 5 weeks, or if you're on the fence about one of these things and are considering going to go see an XFL game live in person at a city near you? That's why in today's video, I'm going to be counting off 5 things that you as a fan should expect at an XFL game should you choose to go with one. So, starting off, number 1, you're going to be wanting to look at the age of the crowd. And this is something that I didn't expect coming from the NFL to the XFL, is the actual age difference that you're likely going to see when you go to your XFL game. And this is because the average NFL fan is likely going to be a lot older than your average XFL fan. And this is for a couple of reasons. You know, typically when I've gone to an NFL game, the average age is going to be somewhere in the 30s to 40s. And that's because it's just going to be, you know, families that are taking their kids to go see a game. Maybe they're somewhat even older and they've owned season tickets since the 80s. These are people who have the money to actually pay to go see an NFL game live and in person, because trust me, these NFL tickets are not cheap. I'm sure you understand this. So you're not going to be seeing a lot of college age people going to an NFL game. You're definitely not going to be seeing a lot of high school age kids going to an NFL game, especially if they don't have some sort of parental supervision who is dragging them along with them. This is definitely not true at XFL games, not in the slightest, and that's just because of how much cheaper XFL tickets are than NFL tickets. If you can buy an XFL ticket for nearly 5 times less than what you would be able to afford for the same seats that you would get for an NFL game, you're going to be seeing a lot more young people there being able to make their attendance because of how much cheaper and more accessible an XFL game is than an NFL game. Now, whether that's an upside or a downside to you is completely up to you, but that definitely is something that you are going to be noticing when you go to an XFL game. Second thing is going to be the size of the stadium, and this is going to differ based on where you live, you know. So my hometown, DC, obviously has Audi Field, which is where the local DC soccer team plays. This is a very small field, only seats about 20,000 compared to somewhere like the New York Guardians Stadium, MetLife, which holds 82,000 people in that stadium. So obviously the numbers are going to fluctuate, and this actually does really affect how much energy is going to be there for your XFL game. For instance, at Audi Field, the stadium was almost entirely packed. I mean, people were lining every single wall of the stadium, just totally packed with people. Really, the only areas in which you see people not sitting in seats was, you know, some of the more expensive level seats that were down closer to the field, and that's to be expected, you know. But if you are going to one of these larger stadiums, either in New York or in Seattle, that is going to sort of change how your perspective of the XFL game is going to be, because obviously things will be quieter. It'll be a little strange seeing people not in those higher levels of the stadium. But I do think that the size of most of the stadiums in the XFL does play into its advantage, and that brings me into my third point, which is going to be the energy of the crowd. You know, I do think that when a lot of us first looked at the XFL, especially comparing it to the AAF, we were kind of still predicting that idea that crowd energy was going to be very low, that we weren't going to be seeing as excited fans as we would in the NFL or even in the college level, and that definitely was true with the AAF. I am like the biggest fan of the AAF. I am an Arizona Hotshots fan for life, but I think something that we all need to kind of agree on with the AAF is that energy in the crowds, actually at the stadiums, just wasn't there. But I do think that with the XFL taking advantage of some smaller stadiums, I know this isn't true with New York, but I feel like that's sort of an outlier. And when it comes to Seattle, you know, you're always going to get high energy up in there. But when you do have sort of these smaller stadiums, you do sort of get more energy. And this is helped by that first point that I made, the age of the crowd. Having younger people there definitely does bring a lot more energy into the stadiums. It brings a lot more excitement. And I think this is something that you're really going to be looking forward to the XFL. You see a lot of people cheering, standing in the stadiums. During that first game of the DC Defenders versus the Seattle Dragons, there was a wave going on in the crowd that lasted for an entire quarter of it just going around the stadium one after another after another. So, I mean, I really do think, and there's some of these smaller examples, and really just in general of how packed some of these stadiums are getting, that shows that the energy of the crowd really is there, and it's excelling past AAF levels. I don't think it's reaching college levels or NFL levels, definitely not. That's a whole nother level. But you are seeing a very sustainable energy of the crowd, and that's something that you should be looking forward to, and that's something that should excite you. Something that didn't excite me, at least, was, and this is my fourth point, a lack of pre-game activities. If you're going into an XFL game expecting tons of tailgating, expecting a lot of pre-game activities to sort of hold you over, or to sort of hold younger ones over before the game starts, I really wouldn't be expecting that. At least for the games that I went to, as well as from what I've heard from a couple other stadiums, XFL games are there to play the football game, and that's about it. A lot of the pre-game entertainment you're expecting to get in an NFL game or in a college game of sort of the tailgating atmosphere and the whole pre-game party atmosphere, if that's what you're expecting going into an XFL game, and if you need that to be able to enjoy previous NFL games or college games, and that's something that's really vital to your enjoyment of an XFL game, well, you might be disappointed in that aspect. As for me, I didn't mind it much. I mean, sure, not having tailgating wasn't the greatest thing, but again, when I go to a game, I go there to watch the football. The tailgating and everything outside of that is just sort of a nice add-on that I'm able to enjoy, but when I'm at a football game, I'm there to watch football. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me, but if that is a deal breaker, that is something that you'll probably want to note when it comes to the XFL. And I might be wrong. There might be other stadiums which do it differently, but at least from what I know, pre-gaming activities in the XFL aren't that common. And then finally, 5, and this is probably the coolest thing about the XFL and what I really, really loved, is the personability of the players and just how much you're able to interact with them and get to know them just by being someone who's going to the stadium, you know? So when I went to NFL games, you know, I've been to games in Arrowhead, I've been to games in Mile High, and no matter really where you are at, you're really kind of disassociated from the players. I went to an Arrowhead game where I was literally front row, and you know, you're not expecting interaction with players when you're doing that sort of thing in the NFL, except for on very rare occasions if you've bought literally the most premier seats, front row, behind the field goal kind of seats, and you might be expecting a little bit of that. And I think sort of a lacking feature of the NFL is you just don't get that sort of interactivity that you get at college games, where it feels like the players are and the fans are both fluid parts of the game, and they're both interacting with each other, and there's personality between the two. You don't get that in the NFL. You absolutely do get that in the XFL, and that's because these guys aren't getting paid millions of dollars a year to go out and do this. They don't have to be as professional as you do in the NFL. They're allowed to have fun. They're doing this because they enjoy football, not because they're there to get paid. And also, the brands that they're working for isn't these multi-billion dollar, to be more accurate, corporations essentially, which are designed to build a public image, and players interacting with fans too much is a waste of time and doesn't bode well for the public image of that organization. That is totally the opposite in the XFL. There were players signing every single piece of fan memorabilia and fan jerseys and footballs and anything that you could get these players to sign, they would absolutely do. You were able to see the players, interact with the players to a level that you're just not going to get in the NFL. And that was really, really cool when looking at these XFL games, is just how much the fans feel a part of the game compared to the XFL. It's really, really cool, and it's experience you're not going to be able to get most places. So that's the list. Those are 5 things that you're going to be looking for if you're going to an XFL game. If this has changed your mind at all, if you're now considering to go to an XFL game, if you previously didn't, I'd love to hear that in the comments. Anything that you have concerning the videos, this channel in general, I would love to hear from you. And as always, I hope you have a lovely day, evening, or night, and I will see you guys all around next time. Goodbye.